ช่างน่าประหลาดใจผู้ชายคนหนึ่งที่เป็นโรคข้อเข่าเสื่อมที่ต้องนั่งรถเข็นมา2 ปีสามารถปั่นจักรยานรอบหมู่บ้านได้ร่างกายยืดหยุ่นอาการปวดกระดูกสันหลังหายไปหมดแล้วแขนขาไม่ชาหรือขั้นอีกต่อไปเขาไม่ส่งเสียงกระรุ้งกริ้งแล้วข้อต่อเริ่มนุ่มและยืดหยุ่นมากขึ้นราวกับว่าเขาไม่เคยเป็นโรคกระดูกและข้อมาก่อนเขาปวดเมื่อยทั้งตัวทุกวันในหลายปีที่ผ่านมาปวดเมื่อยทั้งข้อเข่าและเท้าแขนขามีอาการชาตลอดเวลาข้อเข่าบวมต้องทานยารักษากระดูกเสื่อมหลายชนิดทำให้เขาต้องไปหาหมอที่มีชื่อเสียงทั่วประเทศไทยหลายครั้งแล้วแต่ไม่ดีขึ้นบังเอิญเขาได้เพื่อนแนะนำเม็ดฟูเขาซื้อ5 หลอดมาใช้ทันทีวันละ2 เม็ดดีมากเลยเพราะว่าภายใน7 วันเขาก็รู้สึกว่าอาการปวดเมื่อยลดลงรู้สึกสบายมากขึ้น
เราเข้าใจคุณดีนะครับว่าอาการปวดข้อเข่าเสื่อมเนี่ยมันทรมานแค่ไหนจะขยับตัวจะเดินแต่ละครั้งเนี่ยมันก็ไม่สะดวกเสียงกระดูกนี่ดังกรับปวดบั้นท้ายปวดข้อปวดเข่าคุณภาพชีวิตก็แย่ลงครับผมกล้าท้าให้คุณเอาไปลองได้เลยแค่7 วันก็กลับมาเดินได้ถ้าคุณอยากหายผมจะมาบอกว่าต้องทำอย่างไรสามารถมั่นใจได้เลยนะครับว่าผลิตภัณฑ์นี้ดีจริงๆเพราะว่าลูกค้าหมื่นรายเนี่ยกลับมาซื้อซ้ำการที่ทานเป็นประจำทุกวันเนี่ยทำให้ชีวิตของเขาดีขึ้นจริงๆเขาอยากจะไปไหนเขาก็ได้ไปเขาอยากจะทำกิจกรรมอะไรเขาก็ได้ทำไม่กลับมาเป็นภาระของลูกหลานต่อ
โรคข้ออักเสบโรคข้อเข่าเสื่อมทำให้เกิดอาการตรึงและปวดในหัวเข่าไหล่หลังกระดูกสันหลังแขนขาหากไม่รักษาโรคก็ค่อยๆแย่ลงทำให้เป็นอัมพาตและพิการเม็ดฟูโบคาใหม่จากสหพันธ์สาธารณรัฐเยอรมนีพร้อมสารออกฤทธิ์แฮปโปไซส์เพื่อช่วยบรรเทาอาการปวดสร้างใหม่และบำรุงกระดูกอ่อนข้อโดยปกป้องเยื่อหุ้มไขข้อเพิ่มความแข็งแรงและความยืดหยุ่นของข้อต่อชะลอความเสื่อมและปกป้องข้อต่อช่วยให้คุณเคลื่อนไหวได้อย่างคล่องตัวและควบคุมชีวิตของคุณเม็ดฟูโบก็ช่วยบรรเทาอาการปวดสร้างกระดูกอ่อนข้อปกป้องกระดูกและข้อ
เนื่องจากผมใช้ผลิตภัณฑ์เม็ดฟูข้อเข่าเสื่อมโบคากระดูกและข้อของผมเนี่ยกลับมาดีขึ้นเลยครับผมชีวิตก็กลับมาดีขึ้นเช่นกันรู้สึกสดชื่นสุขภาพแข็งแรงกินได้นอนหลับครับโบคาเนี่ยสุดยอดจริงๆครับผมต้องขอบคุณโบคาครับที่ทำให้ผมเนี่ยกลับมาใช้ชีวิตได้ตามปกติอีกครั้งครับมีสินค้าดีๆแบบนี้ผมก็อยากจะแนะนำให้กับคนที่มีอาการแบบเดียวกับผมนะครับได้รู้จักกันมากๆครับผมเพราะว่าการเจ็บปวดจากโรคอาการแบบนี้เป็นระยะเวลานานๆเนี่ยมันจะส่งผลกระทบต่อชีวิตและจิตใจอย่างมากเลยครับหวังว่าเม็ดฟูข้อเข่าเสื่อมโบคาจะนำผลดีมาสู่คนที่มีอาการข้อเข่าเสื่อมเช่นผมนะครับเม็ดฟูข้อเข่าเสื่อมโบคาคือที่1
ถึง 3 เดือนแรกมันก็ค่อยๆดีขึ้นนะคะอาการปวดมันก็น้อยลงเข่ามันก็ไม่ดังก๊อบแก๊บก็เริ่มเดินดีขึ้นแม่เดินไม่โยกไม่เยกพอทานมาเรื่อยๆประมาณ 6-7 เดือนเนี่ยค่ะมันก็ค่อยๆหายไปความตึงก็ไม่มีค่ะก็เดินดีขึ้นแม่ขายของได้ทุกวันยืนตั้งแต่เช้าจนเย็นแม่ก็ยืนได้ไม่ปวดเข่าเลยค่ะ
เหมือนปาฏิหาริย์จริงๆเรื่องจริงเลยอันนี้ไม่ได้โกหกไม่ได้อะไรมาสอบถามคนแถวนี้ได้เลยนะเหมือนคนปกติอะค่ะขึ้นเขาได้ไหว้พระได้ขึ้นเขาผาซ่อนแก้ววัดพระธาตุผาซ่อนแก้วลูกตกใจขึ้นถึงสุดเลยขึ้นไปข้างบนสุดเลยไปถ่ายรูปไปอะไรต่ออะไรลูกยังบอกไม่น่าเชื่อเลยนะแม่ไม่น่าเชื่อว่าแม่จะดีขึ้นขนาดนี้ใครที่เป็นข้อเข่าเสื่อมนะคะทานเลยนะคะเพราะว่าขนาดดิฉันนะคะเป็นทั้งข้อเข่าเสื่อมแล้วก็รุมาตอยด์นะคะลองเลยค่ะไม่ต้องเสียดายตังค์นะคะคุ้มค่าที่สุดเลยค่ะสุขภาพเราดีที่สุดแล้วทานแล้วสุขภาพเราดีเนี่ยโอเค
เหลือเพียง50 ชุดเท่านั้นค่ะกับส่วนลด 50% สำหรับเม็ดฟูโบเคอร์รีบโทรมาที่หมายเลขโทรศัพท์ที่อยู่บนหน้าจอเลยค่ะเพื่อรับข้อเสนอซื้อ3แถม1ซื้อ4แถม2ซื้อ6แถม3
ตอนนี้มีเม็ดฟูโบคาผลิตภัณฑ์พิเศษที่ช่วยให้ผู้ป่วยหายปวดได้เร็วไม่กลับมาเป็นซ้ำและไม่ต้องผ่าตัดอีกด้วยสินค้าได้รับความไว้วางใจจากคนไทยหลายพันคน
เม็ดฟูโบก็เป็นส่วนผสมของสารออกฤทธิ์แฮปโปไซด์และเทคโนโลยีเอนไซม์ค้นคิดโดยนักวิทยาศาสตร์ซึ่งเป็นความหวังอันยิ่งใหญ่ของผู้ที่เป็นโรคข้อกระดูกเสื่อมการวิจัยที่ก้าวล้ำนี้ไม่เพียงแต่มีประสิทธิภาพสูงในการลดอาการปวดลดการอักเสบส่งเสริมการสร้างกระดูกและฟื้นฟูกระดูกอ่อนข้อเท่านั้นแต่ยังช่วยให้ผู้ป่วยคล่องแคล่วเคลื่อนอย่างรวดเร็วเมื่อเคลื่อนไหวและป้องกันการแข็งตัวได้อย่างมีประสิทธิภาพ
คู่นะครับเป็นเวลา1 สัปดาห์ผมรู้สึกว่า อาการมันดีขึ้นนะครับ รู้สึกตรงที่เจ็บมันเบาลงมาก ตอนนี้ข้อต่อของแขน ขาเคลื่อนไหวได้ตามปกติดีขึ้นกว่าเดิม กระดูกสันหลังก็เจ็บปวดน้อยลง เคลื่อนไหวดีไม่เหมือนเมื่อก่อนเลยครับ
ไปได้ 10-12 วันอาการปวดเนี่ยมันก็เริ่มหายเดินทางง่ายขึ้นที่สำคัญเราเนี่ยทำงานง่ายขึ้นแล้วก็เร็วขึ้น แล้วก็ไม่ต้องทนทรมาน
หลังจากที่ผมได้ลองใช้เม็ดฟูโบกาแค่5 วันเนี่ยอาการปวดหลังเนี่ยมันลดลงจริงๆครับกลางคืนเนี่ยนอนหลับสบายมากขึ้นไม่ต้องตื่นกลางดึกเหมือนแต่ก่อนแถมยังไม่มีอาการปวดหลังเลยทั้งนี้
ข่าวดีสำหรับผู้ป่วยเป็นโรคข้อเข่าเสื่อมเป็นครั้งแรกที่นักวิทยาศาสตร์เยอรมนีประสบความสำเร็จในการใช้ฮาปาโกไซด์สารออกฤทธิ์ที่พบในต้นโครงเล็บปีศาจเพื่อบรรเทาอาการปวดได้อย่างมีประสิทธิภาพหลังใช้เพียง 5-7 วันป้องกันการเสื่อมสภาพและช่วยให้กระดูกแข็งแรงประสิทธิภาพที่ได้รับการพิสูจน์จากทางสถาบัน RKI ประเทศเยอรมนีช่วยให้ผู้ป่วยลดอาการปวดเคลื่อนไหวได้ง่ายขึ้นและที่สำคัญไม่ต้องผ่าตัดค่ะ
เวลาไปไหนมาไหนเนี่ยจะรู้สึกว่าเราก้าวขาได้ไม่ค่อยดีนะคะไปพบคุณหมอค่ะคุณหมอก็ให้ยามารับประทานนะคะแต่ว่าไม่ดีขึ้นนะคะจนกระทั่งดิฉันได้มาพบดร.เดชานะคะดร.เดชาเนี่ยเป็นผู้ชำนาญเกี่ยวกับการรักษาข้อเข่านะคะแนะนำให้ดิฉันรู้จักโบคาค่ะเป็นเม็ดฟูที่ช่วยรักษาเกี่ยวกับอาการปวดข้อเข่าโดยเฉพาะค่ะดิฉันรับประทานมาแล้ว3 หลอดนะคะบอกได้เลยว่าดีมากค่ะอาการปวดข้อเข่าต่างๆเนี่ยหายไปนะคะเรียกว่าใช้ชีวิตประจำวันได้กลับมาเหมือนปกติเลยเวลาขึ้นลงบันไดเนี่ยสบายมากนะคะเวลาก้มเวลาเงยหรือว่ายืดตัวย่อตัวพวกนี้สบายมากเหมือนสมัยสาวๆเลยค่ะใช้แล้วเนี่ยดีมากเลยรู้สึกว่าอยากจะบอกต่อนะคะโบคานะคะเป็นเม็ดฟูที่ช่วยเสริมสร้างเนื้อเยื่อกระดูกอ่อนแล้วก็ฟื้นฟูเนื้อเยื่อข้อเข่านะคะใช้แล้วเนี่ยจะรู้ว่าเห็นผลค่ะเพราะว่าอาการปวดแป๊บเจ็บแป๊บเวลายืดเวลาเหยียดเวลาก้าวขึ้นลงบันไดพวกนี้ดีขึ้นมากเลยค่ะสำหรับคนที่มีปัญหานะคะอย่าเก็บไว้ค่ะอย่าทนทรมานนะคะแนะนำโบคาเลยค่ะเพราะว่าใช้แล้วดีจริงๆนะคะใช้แล้วเห็นผลค่ะขอบคุณมากค่ะ
ผู้ชมทุกคนคะในการสั่งซื้อเม็ดฟูโบกาของแท้โปรดติดต่อหมายเลขสายด่วนด้านบนหน้าจอเราพร้อมเสมอที่จะช่วยและซัพพอร์ตทุกคนนะคะ
หลังจากที่ทานเม็ดฟูได้10 กว่าวันนะคะตอนนี้ก็ไม่มีอาการปวดแล้วนะคะเข่าทั้ง2 ข้างอันนี้ก็แบบยืดได้สบายๆไม่มีรอยแดงบวมเลยนะคะได้รู้จักตัวเม็ดโบกาเร็วกว่านี้นะคะอาการก็คงจะไม่แย่ขนาดนี้นะคะแต่ว่าตอนนี้รู้จักแล้วก็รู้สึกดีๆรู้สึกดีมากเลยค่ะ
เมื่อก่อนผมรู้สึกผมชอบมันมากผมก็เลยซื้อมาตอนแรก3 หลอดเป็นเม็ดฟูละลายน้ำทานผมไม่คิดเลยว่าผลิตภัณฑ์โบกาธรรมดาขวดนี้จะออกฤทธิ์และให้ผลที่รวดเร็วมากผมทำไปประมาณ3 สัปดาห์ผมรู้สึกว่าอาการปวดเข่าปวดข้อเนี่ยมันค่อยๆหายไปต้องขอบคุณโบกามากครับที่ทำให้ผมและครอบครัวได้กลับมามีความสุข
โบคานี่ดีจริงๆเลยค่ะถูกใจมากๆเลยไปลองกันนะคะทุกคน
ดิฉันได้ทำตามคำแนะนำของคุณหมอดื่มวันละ2 เม็ดเช้าเย็นหลังอาหารนะคะไม่น่าเชื่อเลยนะคะผ่านไป3 เดือนแล้วเนี่ยอาการต่างๆนะคะที่เคยปวดข้อปวดเข่าอะไรต่างๆดีขึ้นมากเลยค่ะหายไปเลยไม่รู้สึกปวดเลยเดี๋ยวนี้เดินไปตลาดไปซื้อของเพื่อเอามาทำอาหารที่บ้านเองหรือเดินไปปากซอยสบายมากเลยค่ะไม่รู้สึกอาการปวดอะไรเลยเดินไกลๆได้ดีเลยเพราะว่าโบกาเม็ดฟูนี่เองค่ะ
เพียงแค่1 เม็ดใส่แก้วละลายน้ำและดื่มหลังอาหาร20 นาทีวันละ2 เม็ดจะช่วยขจัดอาการต่างๆเช่นปวดเข่าปวดหลังปวดกระดูกสันหลังชาที่แขนขาผู้ป่วยหลังจากใช้โบคาทุกคนพึงพอใจมากสามารถเดินขึ้นลงบันไดเดินไปตลาดหรือทำงานบ้านได้ตอนนี้ชีวิตของพวกเขาเปลี่ยนไปอย่างสิ้นเชิงหลังจากใช้ผลิตภัณฑ์เพียง 2-3 เดือนมีลูกค้ามากกว่า 500,000 คน เคยใช้และพึงพอใจมากกับเม็ดฟูโบคาคุณสามารถโทรติดต่อสายด่วนเพื่อทราบข้อมูลเพิ่มเติมเกี่ยวกับโปรโมชั่นเพื่อรับคำปรึกษาฟรีจากผู้เชี่ยวชาญ
กระดูกและข้อของเราก็เหมือนมอเตอร์ไซค์และรถยนต์นะคะ หากเราใช้ไป 10 ถึง 15 ปีโดยไม่รับการดูแลเอาใจใส่ มันก็จะพังและต้องทิ้งไปค่ะ แต่ถ้าเรามีวินัยต้องดูแลหลังจากใช้งานแต่ละครั้ง พวกเขาจะได้ทำความสะอาดบำรุงรักษาทาน้ำมันและจาระบีอย่างสม่ำเสมอมันจะอยู่กับเราได้หลายปีนะคะร่างกายของเราก็เหมือนรถยนต์คันนั้นวัยชราก็จะแก่เฒ่าและสึกหรอไปเองนะคะแต่ถ้าเรารักษาตัวเองให้คุณค่ากับสุขภาพตัวเองเราก็ซื้อผลิตภัณฑ์อย่างโบก้ามาดื่มนะคะดูแลมันแล้วมันก็จะเจ็บปวดน้อยลงค่ะมีชีวิตที่มีสุขภาพดีขึ้นเราก็จะรักชีวิตและหงุดหงิดน้อยลงค่ะเราก็ใช้ชีวิตด้วยพลังบวกไม่เป็นภาระลูกหลานในวัยชรา
Shrimp is the most consumed seafood in the United States, and in Louisiana, it's big business. The wild-caught crustaceans bring in about $1.3 billion for the state every year. But for the last few years, shrimpers have been hit with a perfect storm of rising fuel costs and rock-bottom prices.
That's one of the toughest jobs you could ever do. And if you're not getting your dues for it, why do it?
Producers say a flood of cheaper imported shrimp from India and Ecuador is sinking Louisiana's industry. But there's no way to feed America's skyrocketing demand without imports, which make up 90% of the shrimp the U.S. consumes. Up against these headwinds, companies up and down Louisiana's supply chain are closing up shop.
If you worked hard and you did the right thing, you could become a millionaire in the 80s and the 90s. Now you could barely make a living.
So how did the industry get this bad? And is it too late to save it? New Orleans chef Justin Kennedy insists on buying only wild shrimp caught by fishermen in the Gulf of Mexico.
We have never fried a foreign shrimp and ever served it to our customer. I'll never even look at it as an option.
He runs Parkway Bakery and Tavern, a New Orleans fixture since 1911, famous for these massive po' boys.
It's just one of those perfect little things that bring all walks of life together, and damn if it's a sandwich, you know?
He can go through 3,000 pounds of shrimp a week.
So what this is a sink that we just have chilled water piped to, and it's just a quick thawing out our seafood. And if you look at them, they're peeled. We take that vein out because it's a cleaner shrimp. It butterflies it a little bit more to kind of hold the batter and just make it a better bite. I'm gonna scoop a heaping pile of it up. So we're gonna dust this up.
He coats them in only corn flour.
We just use the natural juices and moisture from the shrimp to pick up that flour. You lightly shake that off. 350 degrees, that's pure vegetable oil. This one right here is getting that golden brown color, right? Looking like little baby fried chicken. Watch this, you break that open. Look at that. Look at that little coating. Look at that Louisiana white meat in there. You know, you can't get no better than that.
That shrimp will eventually meet one of these giant loaves.
I think I'm almost 2 breads tall. Let's see. The French people kind of laugh at it because we call it French bread, but it's New Orleans French bread. This ain't French bread.
Justin hits the bread with some mayo, lettuce, and tomato.
And then we start dealing the shrimp.
2 handfuls?
Oh no, we put more than that. Yeah, I mean
4 handfuls?
It's a big sandwich, but you'll notice when you see this thing laid out in front of you, you'll be like, how am I going to eat all that? And then all of a sudden it's gone. So we do one fold, tuck these in. Wrap it. We're gonna put one more on there. There you go. Parkway Bakery shrimp po' boy.
Where's that go now?
In my belly, baby.
About 1,000 people line up every day for these sandwiches, and Justin credits Local Shrimp for his award-winning recipe.
You know, I've had people try to sample me foreign. The batter won't stick on it. It's translucent when you cook it. You never see this pretty white meat. It still looks clear. It still looks like this when you cook it. But this Louisiana shrimp's true and true every time. Can't beat it.
Justin gets most of his shrimp from this factory, right up the road. Kristen Baumer is one of the few processors left in the area who only works with Gulf shrimp, just like his family has for over 130 years.
We've definitely seen a lot of processors go out of business. It's become more of a volume game because the margins are so tight.
His company processes 30 million pounds of shrimp annually.
So what we're doing is easy peeling shrimp. We're hand feeding it into a machine that splits the back of the shell, cuts the shell open, and then it allows, when you cook it, more flavor to get into the shrimp as well as making it easier to peel.
Kristen's team flash freezes all the crustaceans in this room. That's how they're able to transport the shrimp all over the country.
So they're picking shrimp for the second time to make sure they get all the defects out of it before it goes up.
This shaker separates the pieces so they won't stick together when they're frozen. Then they take a trip down this tunnel at minus 400 degrees Fahrenheit.
And after the shrimp hits the liquid nitrogen, it forms a crust on the shrimp, and then it moves slowly through the belt to freeze from the outside in. Don't stick your finger in unless you have a warrant that you want to burn up.
This machine portions the seafood into 5-pound bags of about 15 pieces. Each bag gets a traceability barcode.
Link it all the way back to the shrimp dock that it came from.
This processed product comes out to anywhere from $7 to $10 a pound, depending on the season.
With inflation, everything is getting more and more expensive, and running these processing plants and all this moving equipment and avoiding breakdowns takes a lot of capital.
People have been fishing and processing this shrimp in Louisiana for centuries, from Cajun fishermen to the indigenous people of the United Homa Nation. In the 1800s, shrimp was a staple food of the poor, and sellers couldn't transport it far because shrimp spoiled so easily in the Louisiana heat. That was until the mid-1800s, when several advancements brought shrimp beyond the local scene. Chinese immigrants introduced traditional drying techniques that could preserve the shrimp, and the first canning factory in New Orleans opened up in 1875. But fresh shrimp transported on ice was expensive, so it took on a reputation as a luxury item, tossed into shrimp salads and perched in cocktails. By the 1950s, techniques to freeze shrimp and new refrigerated trucks sealed the deal. They allowed for seafood delivery as far away as the East Coast and Chicago. This was about the time that the shrimp imports into the U.S. from Mexico and then India began to take off. By 1970, demand across the U.S. had nearly tripled, and domestic shrimpers caught more to keep up, with Louisiana leading the pack. By the 90s, the state's shrimp and shellfish generated nearly $2 billion and supported 22,000 jobs. And come the turn of the century, shrimp became the most consumed seafood in America. At the same time, new tech helped farms in Asia and South America raise a lot more shrimp. In less than a decade, farming production skyrocketed nearly 200%, overtaking global catches of wild shrimp. In 2023, the U.S. imported 1.7 billion pounds, nearly as much as its population consumes. And these imports are often cheaper than wild-caught U.S. shrimp. That's because labor costs are lower in big shrimp farming countries like India and Ecuador, and their governments have subsidized these operations. In the U.S., domestic shrimp prices have dropped to compete with the low import prices. Meanwhile, shrimpers like Captain Lonnie Mayu Jr. are facing skyrocketing costs of operating a boat.
You're wasting fuel and ice if you don't catch anything.
Since the 1980s, he says a block of ice has gone from $14 to $26 today. A set of new nets more than doubled, and a gallon of gas more than tripled in price. At 82 years old, Lonnie, who goes by Knuckles, hasn't given up trawling these waters, even after 6 decades. Starting in May, he heads out to catch brown shrimp, usually around sunset.
You have to go do your homework and know where they're going to be at.
He works independently, like most of the shrimpers here.
Right about there. A little too far.
During the day, brown shrimp may bury themselves in the sediment to hide from predators. But after dark, they often come out and roam in shallow water. Knuckles and his deckhand Steve drop these nets that skim the top of the water.
We're not dragging anything on the bottom.
He positions himself against the current, so the shrimp fall right into his nets.
The shrimp are not like fish. They can't really swim that great. They take a ride on the current.
Knuckles and Steve will pick out and keep just the shrimp. Sea turtles have an escape hatch in the net, and other animals get thrown back into the sea, where some dolphins are waiting to chow down on them.
If we don't pick up in that favor often enough, they'll take and bite it out the net.
They can literally rip a 4-foot hole in it, which is going to take a lot of time to fix.
Like this one. Knuckles pulls up the net so he can sew it closed.
You're going to lose everything, you know? You're going to be working for literally nothing.
This work can be grueling. Some shrimpers have big enough vessels they can stay out for weeks at a time. Knuckles has a smaller boat, so he fishes just until morning.
But it keeps you in shape.
But even after all this work, there's a chance they could have a bad run. Tonight, most of the nets were full of catfish.
Ooh, catfish.
See their belly? They're full of shrimp.
Full of shrimp. They went in the net, ate all the shrimp. We ain't got a pound of shrimp. It's all catfish. I'm gonna try pushing up, going a little further up in the lake or something.
Knuckles spent $45,000 buying and fixing up his boat. It was meant to be his ticket to retirement. But now he's unsure that plan will work.
You know, for me to get out the business, I gotta sell it. I got no retirement, but I can't sell a boat. Can't give it away. Nobody wants it.
And most shrimpers agree it's getting harder to justify going out.
For this boat to leave the dock, it's gonna cost me over $1,000. It's killing us. The farmers is killing us.
Right now, nobody want to do it no more because they're struggling.
Milena Cheeve has been fishing for 8 years. Like 60% of the state's shrimp boat owners, she and her husband are originally from Southeast Asia.
With our education, there's nothing else we could do besides fishermen, especially like me and my husband, like in our mid-50s.
Milena and her husband weren't able to go to college, but they hoped shrimping would help their kids do the opposite.
Not enough to pay, especially when you have 2 kids in college. You're struggling.
Dock owners are feeling the impact too.
Because if we don't bring no shrimp, they don't make no money either. You know, when the shrimp boats go out, they're gonna kill the docks too.
That's a pretty shrimp.
Dean Blanchard's family has been buying and selling local shrimp for 5 generations.
I was born in a shrimp dock. When I was a baby, they used to put me in a shrimp box.
His dock, 2 hours south of New Orleans, was once one of the biggest shrimp suppliers in the country. But last year, he paid the lowest prices he ever has for the larger shrimp.
30-some years ago, they went down from $5 to $1.30.
That's because he's selling it for so little to the peeling factories.
Right now, it's the cheapest I ever seen in my life. I'm sick to my stomach. I ain't never seen nothing like this. Never in my life seen it this bad.
After 6 decades in the industry, Dean's no stranger to financial challenges. From the 2010 BP oil spill to big storms. His dock had $2 million in damages after Hurricane Ida hit in 2021.
Where you're standing right there wasn't even there after the storm. I mean, I've rebuilt this building at least 8-9 times.
He never fixed up this part of his marina.
Oh, it brings tears to your eyes. I mean, everything you work for all your life is gone.
But imports, he says, have done even more damage.
We're directly correlated with imports. If a completely processed product is coming in for just over $4 a pound, that means our dockside prices have to be lower, the processors' prices are lower, so to be able to try to get that market share and keep it. So you're making the same amount of money that you would in 2000, but 22 years later.
Fewer boats can afford to go out, so less shrimp is landing on Dean's dock.
We're down to right under 20% of what we normally are for this time of the year.
On this day we visited in May 2023, not a single shrimp boat pulled up to unload.
It ain't gonna last too much longer like this. Thank God I'm almost 65 years old and I ain't got no kids in this business.
Dean estimates that 96% of the docks operating when he started out have since closed down.
I feel bad for the people because I know once I'm gone, they're gonna have to drive 50, 60, 70 miles to go sell their product.
Just like Knuckles, when Dean retires, he doesn't think anyone will buy the company.
Nobody can afford to take it over. The property is worth more than the business.
Louisiana still hauls in the most shrimp of any U.S. state, over 70 million pounds in 2023. But that's a small fraction, the roughly 2 billion pounds the U.S. consumes.
The American landings of shrimp cannot cover the overall consumption of shrimp.
Nearly 90% of the shrimp Americans eat is imported, and much of it is sourced using controversial practices. In 2021, an International Trade Commission analysis indicated that shrimp might be the U.S. seafood market most affected by illegal fishing. Like this boat, off the coast of Gambia. It had an illegal undersized net, and although the shrimp was labeled sustainable, 99.9% of the seafood on board were other species, like sharks and octopuses.
And a lot of time, that bycatch dies on the deck and just gets thrown back into the ocean.
But the majority of the shrimp the U.S. imports is farm-raised.
A lot of our shrimp comes from India, where there are huge environmental concerns, as well as ongoing allegations of human rights abuses and forced labor.
A 2024 Associated Press report found women in the Indian state of Andhra Pradesh were peeling frozen shrimp without protective gear, which can lead to frostbite.
It's kept incredibly cold to keep bacteria from proliferating. I don't know about you, but I don't want to hold ice cubes in my hand all day while I'm also trying to do very nimble work with my fingers. One of the huge issues is that these shrimp farms are isolated. They're far out on the coast. You know, there's not OSHA, there's no one protecting and making sure that the conditions are safe.
But they have few other options for work.
A lot of times when these aquaculture facilities are built, other economic resources in these areas disappear.
Arugula Baby is still trying to pay off an $8,500 loan she took out when her son was dying of liver disease. Since he passed, she's been raising her grandchildren alone. To get to the peeling shed, she has to pay for transportation and 25 cents to a recruiter. She earns below $4 every day, $2 under the country's minimum wage.
A lot of times we will see a woman being threatened for her own safety or her family's safety unless she works, unless she meets certain quotas.
Beyond the human cost, there's also an environmental one. In India, most of the farms are along coastlines, where water is plentiful and mangrove forests thrive.
Those mangroves go through deforestation. They're pulled out. They're blown up with dynamite. So we lose that nursery habitat for other sea creatures, and we lose our coastline protection.
When that happens, shrimp can have 10 times the carbon footprint of beef.
Next, these really big ponds are dug into the land. So the shrimp live in these ponds.
Chemicals and excrement from shrimp pens can leach out into surrounding environments. They can cause algae blooms and dead zones, disrupt ecosystems, and contaminate water. Shrimp farms around the world have been criticized for using antibiotics to treat illness in their ponds.
If you've ever ridden the subway home at rush hour, you know how it is. You're in tight, you're squeezed in tight. There's great opportunities for sickness to spread. And it's that exact same situation in these ponds, which is why antibiotic use is so incredibly high.
That overexposure can lead to antimicrobial resistant superbugs, a health concern that's estimated to have caused nearly 1.3 million deaths around the world in 2019. And some antibiotics, like nitrofurans, have been linked to liver damage and cancer. In the US and European Union, almost all of these kinds of drugs are banned.
So you could end up eating something that's illegal here.
In 2023, the US Food and Drug Administration turned away 51 shipments of shrimp because of banned antibiotics. But the organization checks just about 2% of imports.
So what happens with that other 96 to 98% of seafood that's coming in?
The major health concern here is the lack of testing of imported shrimp, the amount of banned substances that may be carried in these shrimp.
A 2017 LSU study found that 30 out of 42 samples tested from stores around Baton Rouge had antibiotics or antimicrobials.
And that's largely due to the fact that the FDA is responsible for more than 50 million imports annually. And there's just not enough work power to inspect everything coming in.
In the last year, the U.S. Department of Commerce has imposed duties on shrimp from India, Vietnam, and Ecuador. But these efforts, Louisianan shrimpers tell us, haven't been enough to help their incomes. Imported shrimp is still flooding the market. That's why locals like Kristen have been advocating for more regulation. He's a part of the Louisiana Shrimp Task Force, which works with the state government on long-term solutions.
We need country of origin labeling on restaurant menus, so at least when people buy, they're buying and making a choice.
In 2019, the Louisiana legislature passed a law requiring restaurants to disclose if their shrimp is imported. But some restaurants still passed off imported as domestic. The state's health department has handed down 2,600 violations since the law went into effect, but no restaurants were ever fined. In May 2024, the governor signed a bill for heavier fines on restaurants that mislabel seafood. If they're busted, they could be fined up to $2,000. While Justin says he'll never touch imported shrimp, he can understand why restaurants turn to it when the local stuff gets expensive.
They're looking for a good product that will get the register to ring, and so you can't blame them either.
With dock prices so low, he paid $4 a pound in 2023, almost half of what he was paying 2 years ago.
I understand that. When I get a cheap price, I know the shrimpers out there in the boats are probably getting hammered. But if it went back to $7 a pound, I'd still buy it. I just have to go up on my price.
A price he says he's lucky his customers would probably pay.
You're talking to one of the busiest po' boy shops in the city. What about the corner stores who are just living from day to day? There has to be some kind of medium. I just hope it'll work itself out. This has been little, small holes pecking away for 30, 40, 50, 60 years, you know? And it's coming where, it's starting to take water. We're going down, you know, in this seafood industry.
The fact is, the U.S. eats so much shrimp that the stuff caught in the Gulf could never cover it all. So farm crustaceans will probably always fill that gap.
Got to import, because we can't supply the whole United States. But put a quota on it.
It has to come down from Washington. It has to be some work done up there with like regulating the import.
Dean wants federal assistance for shrimpers.
Yeah, there wouldn't be a farmer left in business if they had to live like we live. They're being subsidized for this. Shrimpers should be considered farmers of the sea, but we're not.
More inspections of seafood at U.S. ports and better traceability of shrimp from boat to plate would also help. But some experts say it comes down to better consumer awareness of the health benefits of wild-caught shrimp over farmed, like how the salmon industry got people to pay more for wild-caught thanks to messaging that it was more nutrient-dense.
If people would know exactly what they're buying and they know exactly what they're feeding their kids, they wouldn't mind paying a couple of cents more for a product that don't have antibiotics.
In the grocery store aisle, don't be fooled by tricky labeling, like product of USA or prepared in the USA. That could be referring to where the shrimp was last processed, not necessarily where it was caught. Flip to the back of the package and look for the phrase farm-raised or wild-caught in, followed by a country name. That should tell you where it's from.
Purchase U.S. farmed or U.S. wild-caught shrimp. In the U.S., farm shrimp are held to very strict regulations in regards to what antibiotics they can use and how much.
And when you're at a restaurant,
I always ask, where is that shrimp from? And if that restaurant can't answer that, then I don't order it. Or maybe we should just eat a little less shrimp and take it back to being a special occasion item.
Backed by consumer awareness, maybe then shrimpers can save their sinking ship.
We have to have it, and we will always have it. Parkway Bakery will always have Louisiana shrimp. I'll get on a boat my damn self, you know? This is my father-in-law and my wife right here, and we met back 6-7 years ago in a po' boy competition, and that's how we met. I won by a hair. You know, I won in the short run. She definitely won in the long run.
You're not allowed to bring it up, though.
No, I'm not allowed to bring it up.
Freeze-dried yogurt and fruit snacks. This one is mixed berry, gluten-free, and made with real yogurt. We really associate yogurt with probiotics and things that are going to nurture your gut. But crucially here, it does say in small print, does not contain live and active cultures. So that means it's not necessarily going to be a fountain of probiotics that you might get from a fresh yogurt. Some things that stand out to me. Number one, tapioca starch. It's often used in gluten-free foods, and this is listed as gluten-free, but tapioca starch is often seen as something that is a deliverer of empty calories. And while it can be healthy if you're using it to make something, it can still sort of spike your blood sugar in certain ways. Another red flag is that this product contains things listed as flavors, mixed berry flavor and strawberry flavor. That means that that is not coming from the real fruit itself. You've created that flavor based on using different kinds of chemicals and oils. It's artificially made. Whereas in other products, you might see a fruit concentrate or a puree or the fruit itself. It's really confusing because when you get this product that says mixed berry made with real yogurt, it's really kind of portraying this idea that this is real and natural. And then when you look on the back, you get to the very bottom of this long and tiny printed list of ingredients, and you see that some of these flavors aren't actually from the real fruit. These sort of dissolvable yogurt products, they're really common within the baby food sector, and it's a bit of a pet peeve for dietitians and doctors and researchers in this area, because they say that this is just a classic way of delivering unnecessary sugars and chemicals and preservatives to kids. Let's open it. So holding this, I can really feel this kind of the milk powder and dried aspect of this. They feel really sort of dry and crispy. Let's give it a taste. Wow. Yeah, not very satisfying, I will say, but I am not 8 months old, so maybe it would hit different if I was a baby. Tasting this really helps me to understand what food researchers say when they talk about multi-phase processing. When you feel it, it feels crispy. You put it in your mouth and then it dissolves and you get this kind of yogurt creaminess, and then it disappears kind of instantly. And that now is making me want to eat another one, which is kind of wild. I can see that process when my brain wants to repeat that multifaceted eating experience. The problem long term with that, if you're training a baby on how to perceive and interact with food based on something like this, it is a really difficult starting point because you expect that every food you eat is going to deliver these like constant shots of like dopamine release, and that everything's going to have this multi-phase, multi-textural thing. Then when you get to eating a whole food that is going to be delivering so many great nutrients, it might feel kind of like unexciting by comparison. A baby might be training themselves to expect this level of manufactured brain experience when they eat a food like this. We asked Happy Family for a comment about this snack product. They said it's made with yogurt cultures and fruit, and it's freeze-dried to melt in your mouth for a fun texture adventure. They also said the 1 gram of added sugar per serving can be balanced in the context of an overall nutritious eating plan. So now let's look at some foods for toddlers. We're gonna start with animal crackers for toddlers. They're cinnamon graham flavored, and they come in these really sweet animal shapes. On the front, it says that this is delivering 10% of your daily value of iron and vitamin E per serving. Sounds nice. Baked with whole grains. Also says non-GMO ingredients. Again, here we have love to learn animal shapes. This is something that you see a lot on baby food, where it's really marketing not just a nutritional value, but also a cognitive value that your baby might be using this food to learn and develop. It says it just contains goodness, no artificial sweeteners, flavors, or colors. Total sugars 2 grams, which includes 2 grams of added sugar. So all of the sugar in this is added, which means that it's not naturally coming from the ingredients that it's made from. It's being added in separately. So ingredients list. Some of the red flags that stand out to me, cane sugar being one of the most plentiful ingredients is not ideal. There's sunflower oil and then a ton of other chemicals which are basically used to fortify these ingredients against a process. It's just a whole mix of preservatives. That reads more like something I would see on like a store-bought packet of bread for an adult. If you Google each of these individual things, they're not necessarily bad for you in tiny amounts. But the thing about having them all together is it's an indication that this is ultra-processed. And then it's important to note that the front of this package really advertises the fact that this is high in iron and vitamin E. But when you look at the ingredients list, it shows you that those are things that have been added in as supplements. Despite having read this whole ingredient list that makes it sound awful, they do look good. I'm excited to try them. Wow. Okay, I'm smelling that sugar. It smells great. Oh, this is really sweet, actually. There's a little dog. Kind of scarily, there is another dog that doesn't have eyes. These are really cute. Let's give it a go. I really like crackers like this, even though I'm in my 30s, but this is really sweet. The reason that sugar is risky for kids, especially when they're under the age of 2, is that their whole body is developing. And recent studies have shown that kids who consume a high amount of sugar in their early years have a much higher risk in their whole lifetime of having a stroke, heart attack, developing diabetes, obesity, all these kinds of things. The WHO has explicitly called on manufacturers to stop putting added sugar in food that is marketed to kids of this age, because it can create these cascading health effects and a level of addiction. In a statement to Business Insider, Gerber said that these animal crackers are an occasional snack option when incorporated within a varied, balanced diet. So let's look at some toddler milk. Here I have Nestle Nido. This is for age 3 and up. It contains vitamin A and D, iron and zinc, immunity. There's a big badge here that says it has iron to help with brain development. Again, a classic claim made with baby food. Wow, huge ingredient list. So some things that stand out before we get to the nutritional facts is that there is so much sweetener in here, corn syrup and sugar. You also have milk fat and non-fat milk. These are things that have been processed and broken apart. And then the real giveaway for that is that you have this whole collection of other chemicals, including sodium ascorbate, ferrous sulfate, niacinamide. So this has a bunch of stuff added back in, mainly because all of that stuff was stripped out in the process. This is why doctors agree that toddler milk is kind of unnecessary, because when you get to the age of 3, you can consume milk. Like, you don't need this necessarily. It's a sector that has been created because people will buy it. We asked Nestle for a comment about Nido. They said this product helps parents to meet certain nutritional needs of young children above 1 year of age. We'll also look at pouches specifically for toddlers. So there is beech nut, iron and zinc, this smoothie made by Sprout Organics, which honestly sounds like a kind of smoothie I would want to make myself. So the distinction between these pouches and pouches you see for younger ages is that pouches for toddlers tend to have more ingredients, or ingredients that would be harder for a younger baby to digest. So let's look at this one. You can already see on the front of the label that it has flaxseed, which is a really healthy kind of seed, really good for your digestion, but it's, slightly more arduous to digest. So this is something that would more be appropriate for an older child to consume. Looking at the label is really helpful, actually, because here I've got a lot of natural ingredients that I recognize. Here, there are a couple that stand out that have sulfate monohydrate pyrophosphate. It doesn't necessarily mean that it's unhealthy, but it's a little red flag that there may be ultra processing at play, things stripped out or things added in. So it's something to research for yourself. Beechnut said in a statement that they believe in choosing purposeful ingredients to help introduce babies and toddlers to a wide variety of flavors and textures. So the thing with ultra-processed baby and toddler food that has like little droplets of processing and sweetener and preservatives and artificial colors, it's really introducing babies and toddlers to this kind of texture and flavor of foods, opening the door to this whole world of kid foods. Once you get over the age of 6, that's when this whole industry explodes into all these like sugars and preservatives and added colors. You see things like cereals, which look really exciting. They've got all these colors and they have the same kinds of claims, like excellent source of vitamin D. But if you look at the label, this contains a whole world of things. It contains artificial colors that doctors really warn against, including red 40, which has been linked to different issues with heart. And also there is some research that links it to ADHD, yellow 6, blue 1, and other color added. There's all these kind of vague terms on this label that really don't specify what you're consuming, but the front of it really platforms that this is going to be a good source of nutrients. Ultra-processed foods are associated with short-term and long-term health impacts for everyone, and babies have their whole life ahead of them. Short-term, there might be skin issues, there might be digestive issues, but long-term, it increases your risk of things like heart disease, obesity, diabetes, chronic metabolic issues. So that's the big picture concern of babies having ultra-processed food as a high proportion of their diet. So to wrap up, if you are in the supermarket and you're between all these different labels, really focus on things that have very few ingredients, ideally 3 or less. No added sugar, no artificial sweetener, no added colorants, and natural sources of nutrients. And red flags, avoid corn syrup, any ingredients you don't recognize, preservatives, colorants. The most important thing for parents to hold on to when they're trying to navigate this incredibly complex industry is that the responsibility is not all on you, the parent, to work this out. The responsibility is really on manufacturers and regulators to make this easier for parents. In the US and around the world, parents really, really don't have time to be making all of the right decisions. There is so much pressure on parents. If you have to use a pouch, use a pouch. And where possible, give your child a piece of broccoli so that they get the experience of recognizing that food, playing with that food, touching that food, smelling that food. But if you're in a bind and you're picking out one of these ingredients, that's absolutely fine. The point here is doing the best that you can when you can, and not holding all of the anxiety yourself. Who designs these animals? There's also a cow and a duck. These are really cute. And a bear and a cat.
Do it now, let's go. Your backpack that's on the table. Next, you're gonna open your box up, open it up. Hang it on your box, there's a lock on it, it has a chain on it. You're gonna wear it like a necklace, just put it on, let's go.
I am Pedro Como, and tonight I'm going to be going through and explaining every item that new recruits receive here tonight in their Diddy box, Great Lakes RTC Night of Arrival. Diddy is going to be the first issue of uniform items that new recruits receive once they come here to Great Lakes RTC for basic training. It's going to be uniform items, hygiene products, shoes, anything that they might need here, basic necessities that they need throughout boot camp.
So what was your memory of Diddy issue? What was it like when you went through it?
For me personally, it was very shocking because I've never had to move this fast, like getting dressed and putting on all these different outer garments and weathers and covers and hats and things like that. Well, first thing we'll start with the socks. They're Pro Feet, moisture socks, keep your feet from sweating. Just cotton athletic socks, yes.
Do you get any more like thicker socks since it does get real cold here in the Chicago area?
No, they just able to put 2 pair on if it gets too cold. The next item will be shoes. They get brand new pair of shoes so that everyone have a similar brand shoes. They use these shoes during PT sessions, doing outside runs, inside runs at Freedom Hall. So now they have an option of wearing tennis shoes throughout boot camp. These are SAS running shoes, but we have like 3 or 4 different options. Next, we're gonna go in what's called the knit bag. The knit bag is where we collect the laundry, but for now we're holding all the items that they're gonna be issued here at night of arrival. Inside the large knit bag, we have sweats. We call them Smurfs here at Great Lakes RTC Boot Camp. And it's basically just a sweatsuit, top and bottom. Your Smurfs is just a funny nickname because they all look like little Smurfs walking around base. All right, next here we have PT shorts. These are what they use when they go to Freedom Hall to do workouts, when they do the little exercise in-house. They're just basic shorts with little pockets on it. The ID card holder that's on the inside here. The way they can put their little ID in there when they're wearing them. They don't have to have a whole wallet or carry in their hand or anything like that. They also use these when they go and do the initial swim.
Really?
Yes.
They're not like a bathing suit or like swim trunks.
No. Next item would be the yellow PT shirt. These shirts are used for PT with the PT shorts that we received earlier. Just a cotton material with the navy on the front left, big navy in the front back. The collar's not too tight to me personally. I know they just did an upgrade, so they got a new shipment in. I don't know if it's just the fabric or the material they use or if they switched it, but I have not had any issues with the shirts myself personally. Next, we have the brown t-shirts, the Coyote Brown. These here are going to be the one that you wear under your Type 3, which is the uniform that I'm wearing now. It's a cotton t-shirt and you just wear it under your Type 3s. Next here we have the skivvies, known as underwear, and they're just a basic plain white underwear for the male and female recruits to wear. Later on in boot camp, you are able to buy regular boxers if you would like, but these are like just standard issued boxers briefs that every recruit gets once they come through boot camp.
Are these comfortable? Are these like, they look kind of like what my dad wore in like 1983.
Boot camp is temporary. It's only the basic things that you need. So if you can deal with these for 2 to 3 months and then go about your life and get whichever ones you want, these are like the bare minimum that you need.
How many pairs of skivvies do you get?
You get 8 pair. The laundry gets done by the recruits themselves. They have what's called a laundry crew. They collect all the uniform items that they wear throughout the day and they turn it into the laundry crew. Laundry crew have these bags and they just take them up. After they do hygiene, they do laundry in-house, then they pass it back out later on in the nighttime. Now here is the large white knit bag that I was telling you about earlier. You're gonna stencil this also, and this is also where you put your dirty laundry once you get to the ship. So you're issued it here, and you can, once again, you're gonna put your name on it, and all your dirty laundry will just go inside. It opens up like a little laundry bag. We have shower shoes. The shower shoes are used for when they're going and take a shower, hygiene. They're just little shower shoes so they can go from their rack to the shower and then back, and then they can change into their socks and their shoes. Next, we have the backpack. The backpack is issued because they're going to have multiple items they need to carry. Up next, we have the hydration tube, your water bottle, and pretty much you're just going to put your name on it, and then you're going to carry this around everywhere you go, whenever you leave. That way you're able to hydrate as required.
Why is hydration such a big deal?
It's a big deal because we do a lot of PT. Even though it's wintertime, your body still needs to hydrate. A lot of people think just because it's wintertime, I'm not sweating, that I'm not losing water, but you actually are losing just as much as you do in the summer. They have the electrolytes and the Pedialyte for muscle recovery to help you with the soreness, and you're able to drink that also inside of here. Next item we have here is going to be the glow belt. Each recruit is issued a glow belt. That way once they're out by themselves and they're not with the division, they're able to be identified. All it is it goes around your backpack, or if you don't have your backpack with you, it goes around your waist. And it's just like a little belt so you can be identified when you're walking throughout the streets. Next here we have the garment bag. The garment bag is used to put your dress uniforms in. That way they don't get dirty or any stains or anything like that on it. When you're traveling, when you're walking around, when you're going from different commands, and it just unzips. You put your little hangers in there and your dress uniforms go in. You zip it up and then you're able to hang it up to prevent them from getting dirty or dust or anything like that on them.
They don't get their dress uniforms issued tonight, do they?
No, they do that in week 2. Next here we have the Blue Jackets manual. It's all the important dates in history of the United States Navy, and it's for them to read so they can study and have a basic knowledge of what happened with the recruits and sailors before them.
Are there like key aspects of that book that every recruit needs to learn fast?
Yes, there is, but there's also another book that they are going to be issued when they take their first test. But this here goes more in depth. The one that they're going to get is specifically just for here.
Is this something that recruits keep with them after they leave? Or?
Yes, me personally, I still have mine. I still have my stamp here with my name on it, division number. I still have my whole sea bag with everything that I was issued when I left here.
Why do you keep this book? Why do you keep that stuff?
It's history. I want to be able to say, hey, I had all these things, because I see that things are changing. They don't have things that we had, and we don't have things that the ones before us had. So I like to keep part of history with me. Next we have here the Diddy box with a lot more items in it. The first one here is a small white knit bag, and on the inside of this small white knit bag we have pens and Sharpies. The pens are going to be standard recruit ballpoint pens, and they're just used for them to fill out all their paperwork, all the information, write down whatever they need to write. Here we have Sharpies. The Sharpies are used to fill out their name on certain items. Later on, when they get their box, they're going to put their name and things on the box, so they're going to use a Sharpie also. Also inside of this bag, you have a plastic bag with a key. They're going to be issued a standard master lock for their personal lock, their personal drawer, and they're just going to be able to lock it up and carry the key around. The spare key will be kept with the RDCs just in case they lose the one that they're issued that they keep up with throughout boot camp. This lock is used to keep all their valuables, their personal stuff, their wallets, their IDs, their cash, their money, anything that has value. Next we have the sea bag. The sea bag is where they're going to put every single item that they're issued tonight here, with the exception of their backpack, and they're just able to put it inside of here. And it also has a spot for their lock to go on here so no one can get inside and mess with their valuables or they lose anything. It has straps here, and they just put them on just like a regular backpack.
Is that waterproof?
Yes, it has a little flap in here on the inside, so when you go in and close it, you can put this over the top so the water doesn't get on the inside also. Next we have the covers, recruit ball caps. The first one here is going to be the standard Navy recruit ball cap. This is going to be the one that they're going to wear around. Unless it's inclement weather, then they're going to get the watch cap, which they're going to wear in cold weather. But this one here is the one that they're going to wear anytime they exit a building. The next one here would be the Navy ball cap. This is going to be the one that they're going to get emotional for once they get to graduation and they get to actually wear the one that says that they're an actual U.S. Navy sailor.
When do they get that Navy ball?
So they have to complete what's called battle station. It's very intense. It's all night. They just pretty much do everything that they were taught in the 8+ weeks, and they have to do it all within 24 hours. And they have to go through and complete every single station in order to become a U.S. sailor. And that's when they get the actually put this one on.
What did that make you feel like to wear that finally after going through all that at boot camp?
Putting on the Navy cap meant that I was part of a bigger force, part of something that was bigger than myself. Just being able to say, hey, the people, the RDCs that trained me, taught me, I'm able to say, hey, I'm part of the U.S. Navy just like you are now.
Do a lot of sailors get emotional when they
Yes,
that?
Absolutely. A lot of sailors, once they're able to put these on, a lot of them lose their voice because they're crying, they're tear-eyed, their eyes are all red. Like I say, it's a big moment for a lot of people. Next, here we have a shoe shine kit. Inside this shoe shine kit is going to be all the items that you need to shine your dress shoes and also your drill boots you're going to be issued at a later date also. It just has the shoe shine polish, the brushes, everything that you need to make your shoes nice and shiny for your inspections or just walking around base.
And you get taught how to shine your shoes? Or do you come in and expect you know how to do it with all these tools and materials?
A lot of the recruits, once they come in, a lot of them already know because they look it up on YouTube and things like that. But RDCs, at a certain point in time, they also do like mentoring and they teach the recruits how to shine boots on, give them little tips and pointers on how to actually make it look better. Next here, inside another small white knit bag, the first item is going to be a stamp kit. The stamp kit is going to be used for them to put their name on it. It has little letters. They're just going to put their last name on here with the little letters that are provided. Then they're going to put their division number down here in the center. And then they're able to stamp every single item that has a spot for them to stamp it. And that way they can keep up with their stuff, identify their stuff when they're doing laundry, or just in case anything gets mixed up while they're doing whatever. Also inside of this bag, you have a sewing kit. Just a basic sewing kit, so in just in case one of your buttons pop off, you can put the button back on. You don't have to send it out anywhere and get it done, so you can do sewing jobs on the spot. And this one here, we have the shoelaces. The shoelaces here are going to be used to tie up some of the items that you're going to be issued later on in boot camp. We fold it a certain way. We put the shoelaces on there and tie it the way it doesn't come unfolded. The next item is chapstick. We have chapstick because you need to keep your lips moisturized from all the water you're going to be drinking. That way your lips are not getting crusted and they're not bleeding. You have to go to medical and have to be set back in training also. You also have here floss for your hygiene, your personal hygiene. Brush your teeth, wash your face, shower, hygiene, floss your teeth. The way you're taking care of your personal hygiene. Next we have fingernail clippers. You have fingernail clippers for one reason, because of initial swim. You're required to cut your fingernails to a certain length so when you jump in the pool, you don't scratch up any of the instructors or any other recruit while you're in the pool. Also, the Navy has a standard of how short you should have your fingernails. That way you can keep and maintain your fingernails to a certain length. Inside the next small knit bag, we have laundry detergent so that they can wash all the uniform items that they're issued. Each recruit is issued one bag and they just collect them all at one time and wash all the stuff together. And this is how they get their stuff washed nice and clean. Next here we have a towel. This towel here is for them to dry off once they get out of the shower. Just a plain white basic towel. They're also going to put their name on it because they're going to turn them in so that they can be sent out to the next to be washed. Next here we have in this little knit bag, we have their stationery stuff, papers, envelopes, stamps. The way that they can write letters home, study material. Inside the little checkpoint notebook here for inspections, that way that they can have like little cheat sheets. We also, like I say, we have envelopes here, and we have a notepad here so they can write notes and letters and stuff home to their family members and loved ones. The last knit bag we have here, we have 2 towels for them to bathe with when they get in the shower for hygiene. 2 little blue washcloth towels. Wash their face in the morning, whatever. We have lotion because of the windy weather, the bad weather, stay moist, keep your skin nice and moisturized. So we have razors so that every recruit can shave every single day. We also have shaving cream so they can use shaving cream so their face doesn't get bumped up. They don't have razor bumps or anything like that. So we give them shaving cream so they can shave their face. Here we have body wash. The body wash is so that they can, once again, hygiene. Once a day they're required to hygiene. When they go to the pool, they hygiene at the pool. And this is the basic soap that they get so they can do their hygiene. Next here we have shampoo. It's shampoo so that they can wash their hair. Like I say, they're going to go to the pool, so when they come back and they want to get the chlorine out their hair, they just have shampoo to wash it. Next we have deodorant. The deodorant is so that they can put on after they hygiene. and they're not, once they get done with PT, they're not all sweaty and stinky, so that they can all be around each other. We also have toothpaste, basic toothpaste, so they can, in the morning, whenever they need to, go and brush their teeth. We also have toothbrushes in the bag. You have 2 toothbrushes, that way you can change out throughout boot camp, and they're just there to, so recruits can wake up in the morning, brush their teeth, before bedtime, brush their teeth, do it whenever they need to. After they do hygiene, they do laundry in-house, then they pass it back out later on in the nighttime. The last item inside this bag is a toothbrush holder. Toothbrush holder is just so that they can put their toothbrush inside of this little plastic tube. That way it's not exposed and getting dirty and getting other dirty items on the toothbrush. Keep it clean.
So this is all free, right? Like they don't have to pay for this, right?
They don't physically pay here. It's taken out of their first check and then eventually it's put back in their check so that they don't have to actually pay for it. These are all the items that they're issued in their Diddy box on the first night here at Great Lakes RTC. This is everything they're going to need, the basic necessities to begin their journey at RTC.
Sugar makes up about 1/5 of the daily diet of an American child, and the problem starts earlier than you might think. Baby and toddler foods are getting sweeter every year, and most of it is ultra-processed, which could have long-term health impacts like heart disease, diabetes, and even cancer. So what exactly is in these products, and how can parents tell if they're buying something healthy? I'm Mia DeGraff, and I'm a health editor at Business Insider.
Thanks to more and more miracles.
Baby food emerged in the 1920s and was ultra-processed from the get-go. The first baby food is attributed to this man called Harold Clapp, who was a father in Rochester, New York. He was looking after his infant son while his wife was sick, so he fed him soups and strained peas, and he thought, how about I bottle these things up and give them to local people in my community and even local drugstores. So soon this was being sold nationwide. Parents with kids who maybe couldn't be breastfed or weren't thriving nutritionally would buy these broths and stews and strained peas, and their kids would get better. Up until the 20th century, people thought that adult food was dangerous for babies under the age of 1 or even 2 or 3. Fruits and vegetables were rarely introduced for a really long time, so their nutritional level was way lower. They really weren't getting that full plethora of protein, carbs, and vitamins. But it was really Gerber who reinvented the wheel.
Tell us, please, we want to know, how'd you get that Gerber glow?
There was this father and son duo called Frank and Daniel Gerber who had a canning company in Fremont, Michigan. According to Gerber law, there's a story that Daniel's wife, Dorothy, was at home trying to strain some peas for their sick infant daughter. Daniel comes home to find Dorothy just completely exhausted, covered in mushed peas. So she asks Daniel, could he get people at his canning company to make this for her? Canned fruits and vegetables were, at the time in the 20s, really expensive and kind of inaccessible. So Gerber was seeing that if they could make these foods appropriate for babies and make them easily accessible and affordable, there was huge potential for this market. Around 1926 to 1927, Gerber started testing out some formulas of what they could make for babies.
Gerber prepares food for the most important person in the world, your baby.
They were testing these products on Daniel's own daughter, Sally, and then also on other infant kids. So by 1928, they had their first range of baby food. So that was strained peas, prunes, a beef vegetable soup, and they started rolling them out. And it was a huge hit.
To learn why 4 out of 5 pediatricians who recommend baby food recommend Gerber.
Baby food manufacturers were marketing these products as just as nutritious, if not more nutritious, than homemade food. Also that they were scientific, that they were untouched by human hands. These canned ingredients were basically pummeled with heat to sort of sterilize it and make it shelf stable. And that process basically breaks down everything inside so the solids and liquids separate. It can also impact the color, so it can get a little paler. It can also impact the flavor. So to offset that, you can add in sugars and preservatives and fats that will prevent too much destabilization of the product inside. So babies were getting these foods, but there were longer lasting effects that we didn't yet appreciate. So the global baby food market has grown significantly in the last decade, from 9.6 billion in 2010 to 17.9 billion in 2022. Experts largely agree that 70% of food for babies and toddlers in the US is ultra-processed. So I'm going to measure how much sugar is in one of these pouches. I'm picking this one. Really highlights that it's naturally flavored and that it's a yogurt pouch, but it contains 14 grams of sugar, of which 8 grams are added sugars. And babies and toddlers, according to the WHO, should not be consuming added sugar. So let's have a look at what that looks like. So that's how much added sugar is in this pouch. 3. If you look at this, that looks like a lot of sugar to me. I can't imagine just mixing that with water and just drinking that in one go, but I could imagine consuming all of this within a couple of minutes. So it just goes to show how much hidden sugar there might be, or how much sugar there might be in a product that you don't really notice straight away by looking at the front of the package. This is something that's quite pervasive in all of baby and toddler food. There's a recent report published by the World Health Organization that showed that baby and toddler foods are getting sweeter every year. The amount of sugar either added to or just inherent in these products has ballooned in the last 10 years. And it's something that may not be that straightforward to notice if you're just reading the label, especially if you live in the US. In other countries, sugar that is derived from fruit, such as fruit concentrate, is categorized as free sugars. In the US, that is not always the case. So I've got a bunch of products here, and I'm going to go through them, starting from about 6 months, going up in age. We'll look at the nutrition labels, at the ingredients, and identify what are the red flags and what are the green flags. And we're going to start with pouches, because that is the biggest sector in baby food and the fastest growing. This has grown about 900% since 2010. First up, we have Happy Baby, green beans, pear, and spinach. So this pouch is really presented as a dose of vegetables. Even look at the design. It's got this sort of crown of spinach up here and then a bed of green beans down here. It says full serving of veggies up here. I had kind of missed the pear, but you know, that's technically there. The first ingredient is going to be the most plentiful. So in this, it is organic green bean puree. And then the second one is organic pear puree. This is marketed as a veggie, but it's a lot of sugar for a baby to be eating in a vegetable meal. On this one, there are fewer calories per serving than a dietitian would normally look for in something for a baby or a toddler. You're looking for 60 calories per 100 grams. This is 50 calories per 113 grams. So that is a little lower. So overall, not so bad, but there are a couple of red flags, including the low calorie count per serving and the high amount of sugar from pear. In a statement to Business Insider, Happy Family, which is the parent company of Happy Baby, said that this pouch provides a full serving of organic veggies, which for kids is a 1/4 cup. It also said that there's no added sugar, and because babies' tastes lean to the naturally sweet, we wanted to support early veggies introduction and acceptance. Next, we are going to look at Earth's Best Organic Apple, Peach, Oatmeal, Fruit and Grain Puree. It has 60 calories per 99 gram serving, 5 milligrams of sodium, total sugars 12 grams, and that includes 2 grams of added sugar. That is a red flag immediately. The most plentiful ingredient in this pouch is organic apple puree concentrate, then water, then organic peach puree concentrate. The 2 fruits in this are concentrates. That means that the sugar from the fruit has been extracted and distilled, and it's basically acting as an added sugar. So the amount of sugar that a child is going to consume from this when they suck it up pretty quickly is not insignificant. If I look on the back of this label, it says, made with wholesome ingredients from our family of certified organic farmers. But the problem with that is that that's not actually a regulated term, so it doesn't really mean anything. And the reality is quite a bit away from the general vibe that this package creates. Unfortunately, that's what experts say is a health halo. The WHO specifically calls on companies not to list all of these positives when there are also negatives hidden in the package. In this case, there's added sugar, and the 2 fruits included in this are actually concentrates, not whole fruits. Now, I'm gonna get this apples, blueberries, and oats. This is from Happy Baby Organics. So we have 80 calories per 113 gram serving. That is good. 13 grams of sugar, which is higher than some of the other pouches that I've looked at, but this is a fruit-based sweet product. The fact that you have no added sugar here means that all of the sugar is coming naturally from the fruits. In the ingredients list, organic apple puree, organic blueberry puree, milled organic whole grain oats. If you're gonna have oats in a product, you do want it to be whole grain. That means that it contains every aspect of the grain. The only ingredient you might not recognize in this ingredient list is ascorbic acid, and it's used commonly in processed food to inject a bit of vitamin C, but mainly to improve shelf stability and also to kind of fuse back together the nutritional makeup of ingredients that have been broken down in the process. Pouches are really interesting in the sector of baby food. They're really, really popular. At the same time, because these things are really mushed up and do have sugars inherently infused into them, you're consuming these sugars much faster and not necessarily burning the calories or digesting the nutrients in the same way that you would with homemade food. What you want them to be doing is seeing a green bean, seeing an apple, touching it, so that they associate whole foods positively in their brain and build that connection. And they also have that sort of sensory experience of learning how to interact with foods and feed themselves. We also have puffs. So baby puffs is a really classic snack. You can have them from about the age of 6 months old and onwards. They've got a really good level of texture. This one that we got actually pretty healthy. It contains organic peanut butter, organic whole grain yellow cornmeal, organic degermed yellow cornmeal, and sea salt. Very few ingredients, and it doesn't have added sugars, which is good. The thing that doctors usually care about with puffs is that it can be a vehicle for added sugars, and often they're made with sort of low nutrient grains like rice or wheat without the germ. So now I'm gonna look at some food that's marketed to babies who are slightly older, around 8 months old or crawling. First, we have Happy Baby Organic Yogi.